Welcome to the 2015 NCAA Baseball Rules and Officiating video. The purpose of this presentation is to educate and inform the NCAA baseball community on the new rules and points of emphasis for the 2015 season. It is the hope of the NCAA Baseball Rules Committee and the NCAA Baseball Umpire Program that the entire membership be committed to demonstrating awareness and support for the application, spirit, and respect of our rules for the continued growth, safety, and improvement of the sport of baseball. An appeal is again being made to all head coaches to educate and clarify for assistant coaches and players that they are not to be arguing or leaving their position to appeal plays on the field. Head coaches are to be the sole representative of their team in any of the discussions or communications with the umpires. Any resulting ejection for personnel other than the head coach will continue to have a suspension added to the penalty if it is the result of arguing or unsportsmanlike conduct toward an umpire, as it has been the past 2 years. For 2015, this will now also apply if the unsportsmanlike conduct or language is directed at an opponent. In addition, it has been clarified in Approved Ruling 5 that a pitcher or removed pitcher in a game who has been ejected or receives a post-participation ejection for unsportsmanlike conduct or language toward an umpire or an opponent will receive an additional 4-game suspension. Approved Ruling 8 has been added to clarify that any suspension shall be served in a team's next previously scheduled and completed contest. Games may not be scheduled after the incident to satisfy this rule, and any game not completed shall not count towards satisfaction of the suspension. Head coaches and athletic directors, by rule, are responsible for administering and enforcing any suspension penalties. Also, by rule, suspension penalties may not be appealed. To assist all in understanding the various suspension penalties in the rules, a new chart has been added to Rule 2.2.5 in 2015. All coaches and umpires should especially study and learn the basics of this chart and the specific violations that may trigger a suspension, such as prolonged arguing, failure to leave sight and sound following an ejection, as well as understanding that, in most cases, a post-participation ejection for unsportsmanlike conduct towards an opponent or umpire will result in a multiple-game suspension. 1 for the post-game ejection, plus 1 or more if a repeat offender for the unsportsmanlike conduct. This is designated as a 4-game suspension for a pitcher or removed pitcher. This penalty does not apply for the head coach who is ejected for the next game only. Rule 8.2d, hit by pitch. The Rules Committee continues to be concerned about the safety in protecting batters from being hit by pitches, as well as the numerous instances in which batters are not making any legitimate effort to avoid being hit by pitches and thus taking an unfair advantage of the hit by pitch rule. In addition, there have been many instances in which umpires are providing too much benefit of the doubt to batters in this difficult judgment decision. In an attempt to further clarify the rule and assist in enforcement, some of the language of the MLB rule has been adopted in which batters are now required to make an effort or an attempt to avoid the pitch regardless of the location of the pitch. All references to freezing from the current rule interpretations have been removed. New for 2015, Rule 8.2d, if a batter makes no attempt to avoid a pitch, he shall not be awarded a base. If the pitch is in the strike zone, it will be called a strike. If the pitch is not in the strike zone, it will be called a ball. If a legitimate attempt is made by the batter to avoid the pitch, he will be awarded his base unless the pitch is in the strike zone. In addition, umpires will be asked to hold batters more accountable in demonstrating an attempt to avoid pitches and for umpires to make sure batters display that attempt in order for a base to be awarded. Getting the call right, Appendix E. One of the major changes for 2015 impacts the type of plays subject to an umpire conference and possible reversal of the original call. For 2015, an umpire may seek assistance or a non-calling umpire may initiate assistance on any fair ball traveling into the outfield or any foul ball at any location on the field to determine if a catch was made or not. This would apply to any defensive player attempting to make a catch, but a fair ball must be in the outfield. This will not apply to fair balls within the infield due to the complications that may occur with any reversal of the original call. If a call is changed from catch to no catch, or no catch to catch, the protocol on the result of the play is predetermined so that no judgment is involved on the final result. If a foul ball anywhere on the field is ruled a catch and subsequently changed to a no catch, the final result is a foul ball. If a fair batted ball is in the outfield and an initial call of catch is changed to a no catch, then the ball is dead. The batter is placed at first base and all base runners are advanced one base from the time of the pitch. While the offense might indicate that more bases could have been obtained, the offense has benefited from the change in the initial ruling. If a foul ball anywhere on the field or a fair batted ball is in the outfield and an initial call of no catch is changed to a catch, the ball is dead. Any action by the base runners is disallowed and the batter will be declared out with base runners returning to the base occupied at the time of the pitch. In addition to allowing an umpire conference on this type of play and possible reversal of the initial call, this play has also been added to the list of plays that may be reviewed by instant replay if that game is being played with instant replay procedures. As are all getting the call right procedures. Head coaches requesting a conference must first return to their position during the conference, and neither coach is allowed to argue the final ruling. The impact of this new ruling should assist in making correct calls on some batted balls that sometimes have been very difficult judgment calls. National Anthem Standoff, Rule 5:15A5. The Rules Committee feels very strongly that head coaches must take the initiative to eliminate the practice by some teams of acts commonly called a national anthem standoff. This practice is highly disrespectful towards our country and baseball. It delays games and is unsportsmanlike. It violates the coaching players' ethics. It is not funny or just players having a good time. The penalty for 2015 is a warning to the head coach indicating that players should return to their respective dugout area immediately or the head coach and offending players will be ejected immediately. However, the expectation is that head coaches will instruct their players properly so that violations of this type do not occur in the first place that would require any umpire involvement. The wind-up position, Rule 9(1)A. One of the most difficult calls for umpires in the 2014 season had to do with the stricter definition of the wind-up position in pitching. The interpretation in 2014 required a pitcher not to have his free foot entirely in front of his pivot foot and to have his shoulders square to the batter. It became obvious that there was tremendous umpire inconsistency in making this judgment call. In addition, more and more pitchers at all levels of baseball are being taught and using a wind-up position that violated these interpretations. While the confusion for base runners occurred primarily with a runner on third base, the Rules Committee determined to allow more latitude for a pitcher in a wind-up position for 2015. For 2015, the wording, "The pitcher's entire free foot shall not be in front of the pivot foot," has been removed. While this might create additional uncertainty on the part of the base runners in distinguishing between a windup and the set position, especially with a runner on third base, the Rules Committee feels that this change will be less confusing than the current interpretation of the windup position. Rule 1(2)B. A new policy has been implemented for the 2016 season and beyond, due to a proliferation of colors showing up on foul poles, some being very difficult for umpire rulings on fair foul. Beginning in 2016, all foul poles should be painted fluorescent yellow. Rule clarifications. Rule 4.7. A new approved ruling has been added to 4.7 to clarify that only players, coaches, and ball bat persons are to be dressed in the team's game uniform. All others, to include trainers, team managers, administrators, operations personnel, etc., should be dressed appropriately for their specific team responsibilities, which is not a game uniform. Rule 5(2)F. There have been a number of improvements in recent years to the game video capabilities that can be utilized by coaches for future training and teaching purposes. The Rules Committee wants to be able to allow these training videos to be recorded and utilized after a game for teaching purposes. Therefore, for 2015, the use of manned video cameras will still be restricted to the area behind home plate, defined as the area from the outfield cutout behind first base to the outfield cutout behind third base. Manned cameras beyond that area are restricted to cameras for video boards and television, including internet video broadcast. A change has been made for 2015 to allow unmanned video cameras to record from any location. However, this video is to be exclusive for training and/or teaching purposes after a game, and no transmission for scouting, training, or coaching purposes is to occur during the contest being played. 5.7d. There is still some confusion or misunderstanding related to a 7-inning game. Current rules do not allow 7-inning games to be played except in conjunction with another game as part of a doubleheader. This has been reinforced in 2015 with the addition of a statement declaring that a scheduled, standalone 7-inning game is prohibited and will not count as an official game. However, a 7-inning game that was originally scheduled as part of a doubleheader and cannot be started or has been halted or suspended may be played as a 7-inning game on a later date, even if it is the only game being played on that date. 2.1. A definition has been added to the rules for abandonment. It is the act of any runner who leaves the base path after reaching first base and heads for his dugout or defensive position, believing there is no further play. If an umpire judges that this has occurred for a runner, the runner may be called out for abandoning his effort to run the bases. This is not an appeal play. As an example, if a batter hits a game-winning home run and a preceding runner abandons the bases to head for the dugout, the runner may be called out for abandoning his base. The home run would still count unless there were 2 outs on the play. Obviously, there will still be umpire judgment and ruling on heading for the dugout or defensive position to make the proper call. The batter's box, Rule 7.1c. The Rules Committee is again listing the batter's box rule as a point of emphasis for 2015 as it continues to be an issue due to lack of enforcement by umpires. The rule is and has been very clear. The issue is that umpires are failing to consistently follow and enforce the rule in spite of Rules Committee direction and specific emphasis. Umpires are asked to use a visual hand motion that everyone can see and a verbal reminder to batters who leave the batter's box between pitches when not allowed to do so by rule. Common sense will determine when a penalty of awarding a strike will actually be enforced, but umpires have no excuse for not asking and encouraging batters to comply with the existing rule. Umpires will also need to know the expectations to the rule so they are not requiring a batter to be in the box during times he may legally leave the batter's box. Baseball umpire coordinators and national and conference levels are expected to teach and require their umpires to comply with the point of emphasis for the 2015 season. 90 seconds between innings, Appendix F. In the past season, there has been significant slippage by teams in following the rule related to the time between half innings of 90 seconds and a lack of commitment by umpires to do the things necessary to improve compliance. The committee is again listing this as a point of emphasis in the 2015 rules, and the expectation is that umpires will do what is necessary to assist. Everyone agrees that common sense should be utilized, especially when catchers are on base or for some other action that dictates allowing more time. The difficulty is that many umpires are ignoring their responsibilities for timing this activity, and umpires are also expanding common sense to just mean that there will be no enforcement. This is not correct. It leads to inconsistency, and the Rules Committee feels strongly enough to add it as a point of emphasis. If necessary, a caution to coaches or specific warning will be sufficient in most cases to improve the situation. If not, the penalty of a ball is minimal in order to accomplish the goal of improved compliance. It is an expectation in 2015 that umpires will pay more attention to this rule. Barring unusual circumstances, there is no excuse for the timing to extend to 95 or 100 seconds or more without umpire reaction.
Thank you. And at any time throughout the season, if you have any questions on anything pertaining to NCAA baseball, our baseball umpire program, our rules, our points of emphasis, our handling situations, our incident reports, our ejection reports, suspension reports, please do not hesitate to contact me. You can find my address herein, or you have my cell number. Thank you very much, and have a great 2015 season.